With the abysmal fires still ravaging California, it does raise an interesting point. Los Angeles has approximately 300,000 electric vehicles, more than any other US city. And unfortunately, as many residents are finding out, that can add to the complications of escaping a natural disaster. Let's talk about it, as well as what else has been going on in the world of electric vehicles. When disaster strikes, it's not really about if you're an electric vehicle advocate or not. It suddenly becomes much more about escape and survival. Now, tens of thousands of residents lost power early this week, meaning whatever charge they had on their cars was all they were going to have. Now, this caused masses of people to flock to the public chargers, which were still known to be operational, resulting in, well, let's take a look. Now, if you do live somewhere with a heightened risk of natural disaster occurring, having a petrol or diesel car, it means you can quite easily keep a couple of extra jerry cans tucked away, some extra fuel ready to go at a moment's notice, even put it in the car and take it with you. It's not going to solve everything, but it does mean you've got one less massive worry on your mind. And also remember, this doesn't just apply to members of the public, but last year, California introduced the first all-electric police fleet to, quote, cut emissions and save money. They were also the first to introduce the all-electric fire truck, but thankfully, they haven't transitioned their whole fleet over to that just yet. It's certainly a consideration if you do live somewhere that can be prone to natural disaster. Now, my very best goes out to everyone who's affected by this. Let's take a look at a story a little bit closer to home next. BT, they have placed what is today the largest electric fleet order, 3,500 fully electric vans, and it brings into focus an interesting talking point, doesn't it? Are electric vans ready for the grueling commercial life that they're likely to live? Well, it got me thinking. Take a look at the new e-Transit here. So right off the bat, it does cost a whopping £50,000 plus. Now you're going to get your £5,000 incentive off of that, but even then, it's still going to be more expensive than just buying a diesel van. But here's the thing that really shocked me. These still only have a claimed range of 161 miles. Now, as we know with electric cars, that figure's likely to be a bit less in the real world, especially with the way in which a van's going to be used. Carrying heavy payloads, start-stop driving, maybe a bit of towing. So mileage that these can cover, I reckon, is still going to be a major hurdle for many. So for the likes of BT, who are in quite a privileged business position, they're likely to know exactly how many miles each van needs to cover each day. They can also likely overlook the added bit of expense to make it work, and it'll be welcomed. I'm certain they're getting the subsidies on these because by the SMMT's admission, van sales in 2024, electric van sales were pretty static. But when it comes to your average white van man, your average tradesman, they can often be up against a lot of unexpected miles. Their vans are somewhere that they'll sit in -3 weather like it is today to eat their lunch. Now all of that would eat into this battery mileage. So I think 160 miles, or more realistically with a bit of payload in the back, a bit of towing, a bit of cold weather, 100 miles, it's just not going to be enough, is it? These guys need their vans to be highly versatile, adaptable machines, and electric vans are just not it. I think they've got a ways to go, but let me know what you think in the comments section below. Meanwhile, First Bus, they've removed 30 electric buses from service right here in Scotland while they get to the bottom of what's been termed as a technical issue. Now, I'm not going to speculate on what that could be too much because, well, honestly, we just don't know. What I will say, as I've mentioned already, the weather has been bitterly cold here in Scotland recently. I believe -8 last night. That's probably got something to do with these failures. Here's what I am going to talk about though, and it's the cost, the astronomical cost. Now this article explains that they were part of 50 buses ordered from Alexander Dennis at a cost of 19.7 million, nearly £20 million, and now the majority of them, well, they're off the road. That's about £400,000 per bus, up from approximately 120,000 for one of the new low-emission buses that are now serving Glasgow. It just seems like an utterly frivolous, ruinous use of money. Now, funnily enough, similar issues are also being faced on the waters of Scotland. It's all happening in Scotland today. I didn't do that intentionally, but it's just the way the news has fallen. So this, CalMac's new electric ferries face running on diesel for up to 18 months due to power shortage. This pertains to the 7 new ferries that the Scottish Government are due to order in March of this year. It's said to be part of the first step in the £185 million vessel replacement programme. Now, here's the issue. The areas of Scotland that it's intended that these are going to serve are really quite remote. And it's taken up to this point for someone to stick their hand up and say, actually, I've got a bit of concern about getting that much power to the ports to power these boats. What are we going to do? Well, as Kevin Hobbs, Chief Exec of CalMac, explains, getting the prerequisite amount of power from the grid to the port is a problem. As one example, which is a complete outlier at the moment, Lochaline has a potential problem. That isn't getting power to the port, but I believe there's 100 miles of new pylons needed all the way up through Scotland to Fort William to enable it to be reinforced to give Lochaber and Skye the amount of power that's needed in the future. And we're part of that mix. So once these long-awaited, it must be said, ferries do arrive, a number of them are going to be running on diesel for years to come. We've very much come full circle here, haven't we? The only difference is they'll now be lugging about a massive, great lithium-ion battery, which by the time the charging facilities arrive, will likely become outdated. There's a very real risk of that. I don't think the phrase putting the cart before the horse has ever been more valid. Now, thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy these videos, then be sure to hit the subscribe button for future uploads. Hit the like button, and I'll see you for the next one.